Hello, one and all, and welcome back to another episode here at the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. It's Thursday, which means you don't know who our co-host's gonna be, but it is actually someone that you might have seen before, appearing recently with Francesca Fiorentini. Carolyn Johnson, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's so good to be here again.
Glad to have you here again for the first time when I'm actually here. I was on vacation at that point. You had an awesome show with Francesca. But actually, people might well know you for your work at TYT outside of the Damage Report as well. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a contributor for Rebel HQ, where I've been making some really incredible videos just about a lot of topics I wouldn't normally cover. I'm an organizer in Los Angeles, so usually I'm focused on sort of hyper-local politics. So it's been really cool. With the work at Rebel HQ, covering things from the daily Trump drama. Yesterday, I was working on a story about Ivanka and the World Bank and all this stuff. So it's been a lot of fun,
story.
And yeah, a lot of laughs along the way for sure.
Yeah, the fate of the World Bank is hilarious. No, but I totally agree. That's been my defense mechanism for literally years here. But anyway, we're gonna have some fun too, as we talk about such lighthearted, comical topics like Krysten Sinema spitting in our face, now internationally though, so that'll be fun. We've got the latest on the investigation into January 6th, who will be complying with requests to testify and who will not. What will the legal consequences be for those who don't? There's a new golden calf that the right is worshiping. We're gonna have that for you as well. And the headline story for the stream is Trump's call for MAGA to no longer vote. I love it. I want to publicize it as much as possible. So we're gonna be talking about that too. And then we got Nazis and we got all sorts of fun stuff. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, what was she actually like on certain topics? We're gonna jump into that as well. And if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button and sharing the stream so people know we're live, that would be great, by the way. With all that said, Caroline, you ready to talk about some news?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Okay, let's jump directly into it. Krysten Sinema wants you to believe that she is operating in good faith during the ongoing negotiations around the reconciliation infrastructure bill. That said, she did leave a little bit over a week ago during the negotiations to go home to Arizona for a very necessary foot doctor's appointment. You know that it's necessary because she waited at least 72 hours between it and running a marathon. So that's good. It must have been serious. And of course, as we reported at the time, she was really there for fundraisers. She was raising a bunch of money. And look, I think for a lot of people, when we're in hard times, we have been for some time, pre-pandemic and certainly exacerbated by the pandemic. We need this bill for a million different reasons. And so her choosing to not be engaged with it and instead go to Arizona to fundraise seemed like the ultimate insult. But I want to reassure you, it very much was not, because now she's gone to Europe to fundraise, and I feel like that's worse. So I feel a little bit better about the whole Arizona thing. She's spending a week in Europe, and I would love to tell you exactly where, but like, what do you expect accountability from a United States senator? She's just off. She's eating, loving, and praying, or whatever. I don't know what order, but she is finding herself, and hopefully her state will find a new senator at some point. But anyway, she took part in fundraising efforts for the DSCC. This is according to a spokesman for the Arizona Democrat, because of course she ain't talking to reporters. One of the fundraisers she's done occurred in Paris, and Sinema was also reportedly planning meetings in London. I don't know, maybe Zurich is coming up. It's basically like the plot of a Bourne movie. I don't know where she's going, but it's gonna be somewhere exciting in Europe. But anyway, Caroline, I wanted to get your view on this. Sinema sure seems to have a lot of time recently.
Yeah, I know, she should be pretty busy, but who can blame anyone for going on a trip to Europe, still in a pandemic, all that good stuff. Yeah. But yeah, I could talk about just the persona of Krysten Sinema all day.
I want you to.
Great, because her brand of just being this like elusive, quirky, above it all lawmaker who just like isn't beholden to anyone, whatever, and all the, recently the media coverage has changed, but for so long it was just like she doesn't answer to anyone, and that's cool. But it's like it's so exactly. It's so offensive. Like her job, the legislation she works on every day affects people's lives. Like people's lives are literally at stake with what she works on. So this like being coy and quirky is so offensive, and there's no justification for it. I really, I have no patience for someone who is a public servant trying to make this brand for herself. I don't understand it. And I don't know if you saw, there was a photo on social media that went around recently that she was at a Bernie rally, I think in 2016 before, or maybe it was earlier than that, before she was a senator. And it's crazy. And the Daily Beast notes like she's totally unrecognizable from that sort of, not me, us feeling. And it's crazy. Like we all know that money and power changes politicians, but to see it happen so quickly, I mean, this is her first term. Like it's really shocking, and it's honestly just, it's a great example for everyone to see how quickly politicians can be corrupted by just like money and power. It's really, I'm not into it. But
wait, hold on, Carolyn. No, you mentioned being corrupted by money and power. No. She's just quirky and she marches to the beat of her own drum. Why are you implying that there's anything else going on?
No,
we just say things like she doesn't answer to anyone. That's a fun thing to say. It's less fun when like one commentator will be like, well, shouldn't she? She's a representative after all. And it's even less fun to be like, well, actually she does answer to people. It just ain't the voters or the volunteers who got her elected. None of that's fun, Caroline. Come on, let's be fun.
Yeah, and I will say it was so fun when she just like gave her thumbs down to.
That was fun.
What was that, like expanding Medicare? It was
that was for $15 an hour minimum wage.
Oh, right. Even funnier. Yeah, I can't stop laughing. Actually,
so fun. Can I just before we're gonna move on to more about Europe and how her friends are aghast at her? Can I just briefly mention there's all these articles about how witty and clever and anachronistic she is, which is fine. If you think something she says is witty, I think that that's a little bit sad, but comedy is an individual thing. You can do that if you want. But there's also another thread that's been all over the place, which is like, oh no, leftists and progressives are realizing that like they loved her quirkiness and her Uggs and her purple hair. And now it turns out that she's not everything they thought just because she's bisexual or insert whatever quirky thing they say is quirky about her. Really fast fact check. Was there ever a time where leftists were like, I just love that she's quirky. I like the purple outfits. I like that she doesn't give an F. Who was saying that? Maybe, I mean, I'm sure at some point if you go back when she got elected, I probably said something about like, hey, good. Openly bisexual person gets elected to the Senate. That's representation. I didn't say, and so I'm good for the next 6 years. Who was actually saying that?
Yeah, I think like right when she got elected, it was so galvanizing just because I believe she turned that seat from red to blue. And so, it was kind of like, okay, whatever, like you dress crazy, you wear funny glasses and stuff. That's great. We love you. We're just so happy right now. And then, she kind of stuck with that part of it. And then maybe got confused. Maybe she thought that's why people elected her. It's hard. It's a tough job.
It's tough to read such a big room. But anyway, we gave you sort of the bare minimum details about what she's doing on this Europe trip. And normally when I do that, it's laziness. But no, in this case, it's because I don't know anything else. Her office has declined to say how long she would be abroad, what countries she would visit, how the trip was being paid for, whether she had done any additional fundraising for her own campaign. Her political team had reached out to set up those meetings in London and Paris. We found out from other people, but from her team, why would you think you get to know whether she's ever coming back? She could literally just stay there for the rest of her life. You wouldn't know. That's quirky. I just moved to Norway, Why would you get to know who's paying for what? Why would you get to know what cities she's gonna be in? Why would you think you live in like a representative democracy, you big dummy? Why would you get to know any of that stuff? You're not quirky. That's what's bad about you, audience. You're not quirky enough. But anyway, her team reassures us that she's still talking on the phone with President Biden. And I'm sure the conversations are riveting. Now, bad news for Krysten Sinema, which is my favorite type of news recently, which is that new polls show that she is not just in hypothetical, a little bit of worries about a possible primary, like some people are curious about seeing some options. New poll shows that when matched up against some likely, or at the very least, very possible options, she's not doing too well. So there's this Data for Progress poll conducted from October 8th to 10th. Some of the past polling about a primary challenge to Sinema was from like way back in June and July. This is much more recent. So likely Democratic voters in Arizona were tested with hypothetical matchups of Sinema versus 4 other potential challengers. One is Representative Ruben Gallego, Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego, Representative Greg Stanton, Tucson Mayor Regina Romero. In a 5-way race, Ruben would actually beat Sinema 23% to 19%, beating the sitting senator. That is just amazing. And by the way, it's accompanied with a massive fall in her favorability among prospective primary voters. She's at 24%. Disapprovals at 70%. And by the way, like it's not just like, Democratic Party sucks. That's what it should be. But no, they can distinguish between different people, because when you look at the other Democratic senator in the same state, Mark Kelly, 85% of potential primary voters have a favorable view of him. And all he's done so far is not try to tank the infrastructure bill. That's all it takes. The difference between 85 and 24. What do you think, Caroline?
That it just is repeating what we've been saying about, a lot of Democratic voters are not just voting for Couric and other fun things. And it just continues to shock me as I think about just how quickly this dissent happened. I mean, it's almost nice in a way, because with most smarter and more shrewd politicians, I feel like they have like a more gradual descent into this sort of like corporate being held to corporations and corporate lobbyists and things like that. So I definitely applaud the challengers. I'm not sure if have they actually like publicly said that they're challenging? These are just like.
It's hypotheticals. Gallego has, I believe, tweeted some pretty like confrontational things that sort of imply maybe, but no, I don't believe that anyone's declared or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I guess, that's to say I think there's still time for her to sort of like buck up and get back into people's good graces. Although I don't know, it feels a little too late. It feels, even if a miracle Hail Mary happens and this infrastructure bill, whatever, she's not tanking it. Even if that happens, I think this like cat and mouse game, the display of not being willing to meet with constituents, of only voicemail boxes, her voicemail box being full, like if that the damage is kind of already done. So hopefully, at this point it seems like a done deal. But even if she tries to go back and right her wrongs, it feels like just this whole process has been such a mess. And I really feel for the grassroots organizers on the ground in Arizona who so recently again got her elected, and this is how she repays them. It's really sad.
Yeah, 100%. And look, the thing about her that's so amazing isn't that she is representing corporate interests. It's kind of that she turned so hard in just a few years. I mean, she was in the Green Party like way back when. Like, it's amazing. But that's not even the most amazing thing. It's that she is not doing the bare minimum to save her reputation. Like, she is continually spitting in the faces of the voters. Like, it feels almost like this is not what is happening. I don't actually believe this. But if she was being controlled behind the scenes or blackmailed or whatever, she'd do everything that they want, but like she wants to warn us. So she spits in our face and she thumbs down and makes it clear that this is not in the interest of her voters. That's not what's happening, but I love that she doesn't have the self-preservation instincts, because a lot of them do. A lot of them are just as conservative on many issues, but they sort of hide it. They don't make the story about themselves. That's how they retain their office. And she apparently believes that you can survive in politics doing this, and I can't wait to test that theory.
Or just really quickly, that you just got me thinking, like, we should ask her, like, blink twice if you are, you've been kidnapped, if there's something going on, because you're right. Like, it makes no sense to like both tank your public persona and your political like obligations. I don't know. I might be on the conspiracy theory train with this one.
That's fine. We've all been driven crazy by last year. Okay, let's turn to a slightly different angle on this. There's a lot of people who are frustrated with Krysten Sinema, and it's not just her voters and everyone. Even people who know her well, who've been friends with her, are now talking to reporters saying, Jesus, what the hell is going on? There's this article on the Daily Beast. Krysten Sinema is unfriending her network into oblivion. She doesn't have time on social media for the friends. She's just liking those posts from wine moms on Instagram or whatever. I love it. Those go around constantly. Anyway, there's some sources who've talked to the Daily Beast about this. And one, Chris Hurston said, when I talked to other individuals that consider themselves friends of her, they told me they haven't spoke to her in over a year. And when they've contacted her to inquire why she's doing what she's doing politically, they don't get callbacks. She's clearly gone in a different direction. Used to be part of Sinema's local fundraising network. That individual hasn't talked to her in forever. Matt Grodsky says a lot of people who've considered her a friend or confidant or someone she'd go to for donor support or political support, she won't talk to those people anymore. She had a big network of people who liked her, establishment Democrats, progressives. Everyone marveled at her ability to win in Arizona. A lot of her longtime friends and confidants are no longer there. No one knows, to be honest, where she's at. And another source said allies in the party for her don't exist anymore. She's burned so many bridges with the allies she used to have. And so my question for you, Caroline, is if she's going to get back her groove or mojo or whatever, how can she do it? And if she doesn't, let's say that we continue on the way we are, maybe the bill passes, maybe it doesn't, but she certainly didn't help. It's one thing to speculate about like some congressman running against her. What do you think like Schumer will do? What do you think Biden will do? Will there be organized Democratic support for a challenger after all that she's done this past year or not done?
That's a really, really good question that I hadn't considered. Like, yeah, what is the when someone who is ostensibly until now an establishment Democrat doesn't go with what the establishment wants? Yeah, what is the response from Democratic leaders? That's the big question, because as we know, challengers, especially progressive left-leaning challengers to incumbent Democrats, are very not given any support. Nancy Pelosi, as we know, in the House has like specifically said that we are not giving any support to progressive challengers. So I don't know. I just keep coming back to the idea that Joe Biden, one of the biggest rallying cries of his campaign to get sort of the progressive vote was that, look, I can get these sort of middle of the road Democrats on board with certain legislations. Bernie can't, Elizabeth Warren can't, that sort of thing. And like, that's a very good point, but we're seeing that, the hallmark of the Biden campaign is just sort of crumbling before our eyes. And obviously that is definitely to be expected, but there's something also very different between the Manchin of it all and the Sinema of it all. Like Joe Manchin is, giving statements and saying, well, this is how I work. This is what I believe, sort of. This is allegedly what my constituents want. But Sinema's just like radio silence is is so different. So I wouldn't be surprised if Biden and Schumer, are hold back from really defending her should she be primaried in 2024.
I can't wait to see.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
Fingers
and it's a great point about Biden. That was supposed to be, well, there was 2 advantages he was supposed to have. Supposedly he's more electable, which makes honestly perfect sense as long as you never looked at any of the comparative polls of like Bernie versus Trump or anything like that in 2016 or 2020. And also that he could bring people together. Well, so far with the Republicans, how's that working out? Has he brought Republicans together? And then on bringing like the Democratic Party together, like she might end up supporting the bill, maybe, but it's going to have been like eviscerated. What, Bernie couldn't have gotten her to cut a bill by a ton and then reluctantly support it? Where is the Biden advantage that we were supposed to have? So far, I'm really not seeing it. And during all of this time, he's being like super cowardly in terms of executive orders, executive action. He's not moving on those things too. So what was the advantage here? I mean,
exactly.
We're not surprised. We knew this coming in, but yeah.
It's disappointing. So
100%. No, final thought?
I was just gonna say, I mean, we keep hearing that there's like, she's having all these calls with the president. And it's like, okay, Joe, like, tell us what she's saying. The good, the bad, like what's going on? Why, cause he likely has some sort of good excuse of like why she is not budging. And I just say like, burn it all down, like let us know. It's not helping you or Biden's reelection if he can't wrangle this area of the party.
Yeah, and I will also say this is like I guess a prediction or a warning for people who are watching the show now but haven't been following American politics for very long. There has been almost nothing done throughout this year. They passed the COVID bill, there was a hate crimes bill, and now we've been waiting for months and months and months for infrastructure. And this is during the honeymoon period. Like if you think nothing was done this year, next year's an election, which is the ultimate excuse from every politician to not do a damn thing. So enjoy that. And then eventually he'll be a lame duck. So just enjoy. This was the exciting part of the Biden term.
Yeah, we're basically on to the next election already, and you love to see it.
Yeah, well, we'll be talking about that in just a few. For now, though, we are going to go to our first break, but we'll be back in just a few with January 6th and the new thing that the right wing is worshiping after this. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. Rhino Lock in the Twitch chat says, yeah, this is the last big thing that will happen till the next election. Well, so you say that, Rhino Lock, but I just read that Chuck Schumer is gonna do a vote on that like compromise voting bill next week. Manchin supports it, which means they've got 50 votes, which is 5/6 of something that matters, since it's just gonna be filibustered. On the pre-show, we tried to get the hashtag force the buster going. Make them actually filibuster some of this stuff. Chuck Schumer, stop doing PR for them. They don't want the American people to know that they're doing unpopular stuff. Why are you helping them to hide it? Anyway, let's see what else is going on. Over in the YouTube chat, Carrie K became a tier 3 member. Thank you very much, Carrie K. At a tier 3, you get access to our live monthly Q&A where a group of us hangs out. We talk about politics. We talk about a bunch of stuff that's not politics. We've been doing it all throughout the year. It's been a lot of fun. So I look forward to you being there. Todd Shisham has become a tier 1 member. With that, you get access to the badge and the emojis, including the new purple dragons. So that should be fun too. Forbesilla says no one could ground her flight out of country. I'm really torn on whether I want her out of country or not. I don't want to see her. Like that would be something. But she is a senator. You could be in DC. I don't understand these people. Like, I mean, I do, I'm lying. I understand the corrupt motivations, but like, she is not that much older than me. And she is a US senator. This amazing achievement after years and years of working in politics. And now what does she do? Screw it, I'm going to Europe. I'm gonna go watch a marathon. I'm gonna go teach a class. I'm gonna intern at a winery. I got other stuff. I wanna do a triathlon, honestly. Like, who has been given an opportunity like this and cared about it less than Krysten Sinema. Anyway. Over in Twitch, Skip the D-Block Dragon gifted 2 tier 1 subs, much appreciated, thank you. Kudajar Knock hit 14 months as a sub, says, yay, catching the main show while I work. Maybe I can catch the recap show later, cool. Kiki hit 15 months, says, love everything you do, thank you. I love everything you do. I love that thing that you just did, actually. Weo plays MTG hit 12 months, says, I could be quirkier if my host had purple hair. Someone else was saying, by the way, don't diss purple hair. I get it. There's some of my favorite people had purple hair. Sabrina had it up until recently. Our amazing editor Cassie has purple hair. It's great and it is quirky, but both of them, Sabrina and Cassie, would deliver on legislation as well. So they have that up on her. Anyway, Franklin Sharpslicer has another poem for us. Says, Captain Kirk returns from space and noted with some poetic grace, black is death, blue means life. We need to protect it through the strife. A minor diversion from all the crap to get a captain face slap. There's a little bit of Captain Kirk in there. I like it. Anyway, Captain Kirk hanging out with Jeff Bezos. That's not the epic crossover event of the year that I was hoping for. Anyway, Metallic P hit 6 months on Twitch, thank you. Says, when Sinema was elected, it was a big deal. Not because we, progressive people of Arizona, liked her very much. We did not like her, but the seat flipped and everyone was just relieved that McSally was kicked to the curb. And that is true, that is great. But functionally so far this year, McSally and Sinema on the things that matter, very similar, they just are. Blue Tech the Belgian Dragon gifted 10 tier 1 subs. Thank you very much for that. Ghost Fox Toys hit 13 months, has passed the 1 year mark. Can we be Toy Dragon? You may. Thank you for that. Okay, we've got a lot to get to. And unfortunately, we're running low on time. Okay, so we have more news. We'll be back in just a few. Okay, everyone, hold on to your butts. I'm about to show you some video that is a little bit rough, but here we go. Video that you just saw is newly released. It of course happened on January 6th. And what you're seeing is Officer Michael Fanone, who testified a few months ago, being dragged into a crowd. And he's being dragged by a man, Albuquerque Cosperhead, who allegedly bear hugged him, told him that he's gonna help him. He's gonna get him out of there. And then he pulled him away from the other cops so that the crowd could do blank. You insert into that whatever you want. It certainly wasn't helping Officer Michael Fanone. And that sort of video is a reminder of how bad January 6th was. It was terrible, should have never happened. And it did happen. And there's still a lot that we don't know about it. And so thankfully, there is an investigation. They're trying to get answers, but that does not mean they're gonna be able to do so if some of the people who might have helped to plan this might know what the president was thinking about it, refused to comply with a request to testify. And we have a big name for you in that area. Steve Bannon's lawyer just yesterday wrote a letter to the panel saying that his client will not provide testimony or documents until the committee reaches an agreement with former President Donald Trump over executive privilege or a court weighs in on the matter. Quote, that is an issue between the committee and President Trump's counsel, and Mr. Bannon is not required to respond at this time. So earlier this month, they wrote another letter. They're big letter people, I like that. Bannon's attorney argued that the executive privileges belong to President Trump and we must accept his direction and honor his invocation of executive privilege. The claim that Bannon could be covered by the former president's privilege is unusual though, because Bannon wasn't working for the federal government during the period surrounding the January 6th insurrection. And privilege claims normally only apply to close officials around the president and deliberations between government employees. So not only was he not working there, he was fired 4 years ago. So it's weird that he remains this confident after he was yeeted out of the White House. But you can't just executive privilege everybody. The dude bear hugging Fanone doesn't get to claim executive privilege. That's not how this is supposed to work, Caroline. What do you think?
I just want to say I love this look into their friendship. I love how Bannon is like, that's private. Like, he's my best friend. You can't, you can't go there. That is between us. And as you said, like, they're letter writing people. It's very cute. It's such a shame that, it just, the topic has to be about an insurrection on the United States, because other than that, I think they have a really wonderful, loving relationship. But yeah, this whole January 6th thing it's just getting in the way of their bromance. And he really should just testify so they can leave it behind them and be in prison together as best friends. That's really all.
Yeah, and look, if they were trying to get me to come in, I'd probably be frustrated about it too. Thankfully, I don't have any behind the scenes information about the planning of it. Is that something I have in common with Bannon? I don't know. He's acting like we don't, because if he didn't know anything about this, it might be inconvenient to be brought in to testify. He might feel like if he's seen to be complying with their requests, MAGA world might not like that. So I want to be clear, him having secret information is not the only plausible explanation for why he wouldn't comply. But as you'll see in just a little bit, there is reason to believe that he might have some behind the scenes information. In any event, those organizing this are not that shocked that he's not complying, and apparently they're gonna do something about it, they say at least. If Bannon is a no-show, the committee is expected to immediately begin seeking a referral for criminal contempt after the subpoena deadline passes, which I believe is today actually, essentially making an example of him for the non-compliance. It might take some time, by the way, before the House sends such a referral to the DOJ, but they could begin the process actually later on today. And so it's possible that we might know. My question for you, Caroline, though, is I've been, sort of, I would say pessimistic about any legal consequences for virtually anyone. Not to say there hasn't been some people involved with Trump over the past 4 years have spent a little bit of time in prison for the things they did. Far more haven't, though. So if you were Steve Bannon, how worried would you be right now?
Oh God, another great question, because I definitely believe that there is a real belief among Trump's members of Trump's circle while he was president that really have this sort of like narcissistic delusion that nothing of substance can happen to them. And I think you see this really interesting split within the former Trump world of like, there's the Stephanie Grishams and Michael Cohens who are kind of like, I didn't know what I was doing. They're horrible. They were brainwashing me, blah, 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 blah. I love liberals now. And then the other side is like, oh no, like I have never said an ill word in my life. You are a liar. You are the one, you have skeletons in your closet. The election was rigged, blah, blah, blah. Like it's really insane that there are these, it's a huge split. So something is definitely going on in this world where people are realizing, individuals in that orbit are realizing that there's only, the road is split before you. Either you double down on apologizing and saying, it wasn't me, we were corrupt by power, or you just have to keep going. And I think the second lane, if you will, is just getting narrower and narrower, and people are dropping off as these consequences become so dramatic. And back even in 2016, I don't think anyone would be surprised to know that in a couple years, yeah, Steve Bannon is still right by the president, is still the former president is still sticking with him despite all of the insanity that's happened. Yeah. So I think that takes a level of deluding yourself. And I think if anyone's done it, it's obviously Steve Bannon, who, largely some sort of outsider, I guess, but it's a fascinating.
It seemed like it for a while. Yeah. And he's apparently got some access. Trump seems to have forgiven him in some ways. The base seems to not care that he conned them out of millions of dollars to build a wall, and they just bought yachts with it. And nobody even remembers that anymore.
Well, they had a falling out, right? Like something. Am I wrong in that there was something that happened between the two of them that, or have they always been good? Have they always, like Trump and Bannon, been like pretty much side by side?
Look, it's a thing that happens to a lot of groups. They were spending a lot of time together in the White House, and everybody wants to be the one hot person in the group, and so they're naturally gonna clash or whatever. But anyway, really fast, I do want to let you know though about some of the reason to believe that he might know at least something that the committee would want to hear. On the eve of the riot, Steve Bannon warned on his podcast the day before, all hell is going to break loose tomorrow. It's all converging, and now we're on the point of attack tomorrow. And all I can say is strap in. You have made this happen, and tomorrow it's game day. Which, look,
not suspicious at all.
You could just describe, we're gonna have a lot of people there. There's gonna be signs. We're gonna sell corn dogs, and we're gonna have our voices be heard, and we're not breaking any windows. You could be describing that, but it's a better description of what ended up actually happening. So anyway, and by the way, Robert Costa of the Washington Post says Bannon had actually been in close touch with President Trump for days before January 6th. Based on our reporting, he privately told President Trump to have a reckoning on January 6th. And he said to the president, it's time to kill the Biden presidency in the crib. Just a great metaphor for one pro-life guy to say to the other pro-life guy. But anyway, that none of this is proof that he knew anything, but maybe he did. Final thoughts?
Just a little. No, that podcast statement is wild because I remember that day before they breached the security, before they got into any of the buildings, just kind of being like, oh, this is a protest, which is allowed, and that even when it started to go wrong at the beginning, there was just such chaos and confusion that I was just like, okay, again, like, yeah, these people are not my people, but like they are allowed to do what they're doing. So yeah, what you're saying about the fact that had Bannon not given this like explicit detail using literal like language of war and attacks and that kind of thing, it has to show that they knew that something was going on. And like you said earlier, what to me the whole January 6th thing that is so unfortunate is that because of all of these issues around who is telling the truth, who we're gonna have testify and not testify, it seems like we're never going to actually be able to investigate the real things that need to be investigated, including like, how did they breach the security of the Capitol? But it just feels like we can't even get there because I mean, people don't even accept that Biden is the president of the United States. Like, if you don't accept that logic as a grounding, like we're never gonna get to the more serious things that really do need to be investigated. And all of this evidence comes out, just keep proving further and further that there is fire where there's all this smoke.
Yeah, I don't know that they're ever gonna find anything, but if they do, I hope that they hurry up so that they can finalize their report before the next insurrection.
Yeah, right.
And by the way, based on his podcast comment, I love how adaptive the crowd that showed up is. So the night before, get in there, point of attack, game day, get them, it's awesome. Then they do it, and the right's like, this might go poorly. That's Antifa. And then a couple months later, oh, we haven't been like illegitimized in politics. We can keep doing this. They're us again. They're patriots. It's like it really does depend on when. Political prisoners. Why are you persecuting them? But I thought they were Antifa. Anyway, that's all weird, but it's about to briefly get even weirder. Let's jump into this video.
I also want to invite Kim from Chesapeake. She's carrying an American flag that was carried at the peaceful rally with Donald J. Trump on January 6th. I ask you all to rise and join us as Mark Lloyd leads us in the pledge.
Face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag.
What is going on? So that was a rally in support of Glenn Youngkin, who is running in Virginia for the governor's seat as a Republican. Now, to be fair, Glenn Youngkin was not there, and afterward probably thought that was a good call that I made, because they are pledging allegiance specifically to a flag because it was at the Capitol on January 6th. Politics is really weird, Caroline. There's a lot of stuff that's very weird. That seems to me particularly weird. Why? Who cares that it was there? Except we know why they care that it was there. It's just so weird to turn to it and do the ritual thing because it was part of the insurrection.
So the flag is there because it represents a symbol from a day in which the American right failed to acknowledge a legitimate election. And they're using this flag to support a man seeking election. Like, it's just like, why? I thought we were doing the whole we're not voting anymore thing. Like, it doesn't make sense. The symbol is of that, you can't trust institutions, you can't trust Congress, you can't trust the United States government. And then it's like, oh, by the way, remember, donate to this gubernatorial candidate on your way out. Very good move for him not to be there. Just so many mixed messages.
Oh, he's weird enough though too. He's weird.
Yeah, I don't know that much about him. He's
not as bad as Trump or whatever. But anyway, look, I'm glad we have that video. We finally, after years and years in America, we found the American Idol. It's a false one, but we found it. Generally, false idols are false because you shouldn't worship them. This one, they're also being false about it. They know that it wasn't a peaceful protest. That's why they liked it. If it had been a peaceful protest, you wouldn't have heard a right-winger talk about it for 8 months now. They wouldn't care. They loved that it was violent.
Wait, just really quickly, they're talking about the peaceful protest, and the sign in the background says that the candidate is a Godzilla of truth. Did I read that right?
I love metaphors, but at a certain point, you're stretching. You're stretching.
Oh my God.
I want a reputation as a guy who gives good advice for stock trades. I want to be an alligator of finance. That's what I want. No, do you even understand metaphors?
Right.
But anyway,
pick an animal, pick a quality.
Yeah, cool. I don't get it. Anyway, while Glenn Youngkin was not there, Trump did phone into the rally in support of him. And to give you an idea of, well, not that you need another idea of how crazy this rally was, they just worshiped an insurrection flag. So they got their Ashley Babbitt for their martyr. Now they have their flag. It's like how they said after the wall came down in Germany, everybody claimed to have a piece of it. And there were so many pieces that you could put together like 3 walls. Now they've got their flags. Everyone's gonna be saying my flag was there. This one I beat a cop with. But anyway, so Trump did call in and said, Glenn Youngkin is a great gentleman. We won in 2016. We won in 2020, the most corrupt election in the history of our country. Probably one of the most corrupt anywhere, but we're gonna win it again. And so he wants Youngkin to win, even though Youngkin's got this weird back and forth thing where at one point they were calling him, like Seb Gorka called him a rhino because he wouldn't go on his show. And then now he's like MAGA loves him. Youngkin is calling for an audit of voting machines, which is already done, but he's calling for it again because you're supposed to be freaked out about 2020. He admits that there was no significant fraud in past Virginia elections. He says he doesn't expect Democrats to cheat this fall, but you have to pretend to think that all elections are stolen anyway. And by the way, he has been changing. So originally, he didn't want to campaign with this state senator, Amanda Chase, who's a big conspiracy theorist in the area, super supportive of the January 6 people, calling them patriots or whatever. Didn't want to be seen with her as recently as August. Now gonna be campaigning with Chase in Martinsville and Chesterfield soon. So, sorry, that was last week. So you do what you gotta do to win. And on the right, they think I gotta be with Trump, I gotta be with the Trump people, which means whatever conspiracy theories he comes up with, whatever lies he pushes, that's my thing now. Anyway, any other thoughts?
I'm lost on if we're supposed to vote or not. If I'm a Republican, just am I supposed to vote or not? Trump is saying one thing, this guy's saying another thing. I'm confused.
We're gonna debate it, don't you worry.
Great.
We're gonna try to figure out what are you supposed to do if you're a red hat wearer. We'll have that for you after a break. We're gonna take a short minute, see what's going on in the audience, and then we'll be back. Welcome back, everyone. Let's see what's going on out in the world. Stephen Turner sent in a very generous super chat. Thank you, Stephen Turner. Says, so just for giggles, I did a comparative study of Weimar 1919 and 1939 and USA 2009 to 2019. Creepily eerie similarities. Be ready to bail, folks. I don't want to bail. I like living here. It's easy. And there's other places that have great advantages, but it's just easy living here. I'm just gonna stick around and hope for the best. Anyway, Caroline, do you have any backup plan outside of California?
Oh God, no. Man, that's a very interesting point though. I mean, yeah, I think the like historical precedents they're always good to keep in mind, but yeah, you really, I think we should stay. I think we should stay.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll give it another 4 years. Okay,
that's it.
That's it. I can't last any longer. The way I eat, I won't. Ingy Bingy says, can Sinema just announce that she's a Republican now? Would that cause McConnell to become majority leader again? In theory, I don't know how quickly the revote can happen. It might be a pre-scheduled thing. I'm honestly not sure, Caroline. Do you know?
I don't know, actually.
I don't know if you can just vote instantly if you want to. It's possible. I don't know.
That's a good question.
But anyway, I don't know that she's going to. And if she did, she would lose in the next. She's more likely to lose in the next race because she's an obstructionist, but she's just gonna get beat by a more conspiratorial Republican primary contender. I feel like.
Yeah, and the what you were saying about Biden, about Mark Kelly, sorry, and having an 85% approval rating. Also, Arizona went for Biden, if we believe the election. So it's if we're assuming that, but yeah, it's just I don't know what she's doing.
Yeah. Frank Schwartztrauber says she's using her office to make as much money as she can and create her brand. Then she's not going to run again. I think it's plainly obvious. I go back and forth on that. I don't know if she's planning to run again. It's a very easy gig. I don't know why she wouldn't, but she's acting as if she does not care whether she wins again. That I think is indisputable. That doesn't mean that she's not trying to run again. Okay, Joe Schmo says, wait, there was also a peaceful rally on 1-6. Was it down the street from the coup? Yeah, it was probably a couple blocks away, I guess. It's small. Anyway, Bernie the Kiwi Dragon says, praying to the flag. It reminds me of the story of peasants worshiping mangoes regifted by Mao Zedong. This is a level of insanity some Americans have descended into. Look after your mental health. Yeah, I hate everything. Anyway, Vicky Gray just sent in another big super chat. Vicky Gray has been very generous for several days now. Thank you, Vicky Gray. Says, Caroline, everybody should vote. Love to all from Santa blah blah. Yes, I agree. I want right wingers to vote. I just want them to vote for something rational for once. I don't know if that's ever gonna happen. Okay, let's see. Keyjohn says, I was there when the wall came down in Berlin. My aunt really got a piece, but it's true. So many wall pieces you can buy as souvenirs too. Yeah, that's awesome, Keyjohn. I did not know that. I remember, that's amazing. I've been 2-part, and also in DC, there's a section in the museum that you can go see if you're in that area. Let's see, Fritter says, yeah, Republicans don't vote or run really. Now liberals primary every seat you can, if only. Okay, let's see. Pizza for Breakfast says January 6th was the wombat of peaceful protests. I think our audience is getting the whole metaphor thing now. Anyway, this broad says, man, I wish I could get paid to not do my job. I'd totally go to Europe too. Especially because that's like a paid vacation in addition to the many weeks they get off already. Anyway, more to close out the hour after this. Okay, everybody. So far, having a lot of fun with the show. Caroline, it's been a pleasure to have you on. Thank you for joining us and being such a big part of the network. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, love TYT.
Well, you're gonna love this then, because coming up right after our program in about 43 minutes, I know you know what I'm gonna say. Indisputable is coming up, and I know you're already hyped for it. I know that, but I'm gonna make you even more hyped. It's not just that you get Dr. Rashad Richey, that would be enough. But you know what else you get today? You get Senator Nina Turner on Indisputable. Oh my God. 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. That is an exciting. Like if you had told me a year ago, would I have believed you? I don't know, but I'm very excited about it now. Anyway, that's coming up. And also later on, you can double dip with Senator Nina Turner 2 times the SNT, because tonight there's an all new Power Hour with Nina Turner. Members get the full episode live after the Young Turks at 8 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Pacific time. If you'd like to get access to it, you can sign up to become a member today at tyt.com/join. And if you are still thinking about it, and I understand some people financially, like I don't begrudge anyone who can't afford to do paid membership, I totally get it. Excerpts are released in podcast form the Monday after the show. So if you go to Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, all those things, Acast, you can get access to excerpts for free of Power Hour. By the way, one other thing, I know there's a lot to promo. It's just been an exciting week at TYT. Representative Ilhan Omar was on the Young Turks yesterday, interviewed by Anna Kasparian. It was a great interview. You should definitely go check it out. And one way that you can do that is that it is now available on a podcast on the Young Turks. So Ilhan Omar spoke about immigration, refugees, and more. They talked about Biden and his strategy and what's gonna happen, the xenophobia of the right. It was a very exciting interview. Now available, the new episode of the Young Turks on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts. So definitely go take a look at that. And with all that, Jesus, hours been burning by fast. Apologies to the team behind the scenes, but let's jump back into it. Donald Trump had an interesting bit of advice for his fans, and I have to say, I'm a fan of it actually. He put out this statement saying, if we don't solve the presidential election fraud of 2020, which we have thoroughly and conclusively documented, Republicans will not be voting in 22 or 24. It is the single most important thing for Republicans to do. Now, you might recall, this is very similar to what he was saying after the November election, but before the Senate runoffs in Georgia. That worked out very well, just not for him or the Republican Party. So Caroline, I have to say, I don't often come out of these Trump statements feeling hyped, but I like the direction he's turned in this time.
Yeah, this is a proven great strategy for, I'd say, just like the general well-being of the United States. Maybe he's just changing his tune. Maybe he knows this is what the country needs. But also, this statement is written like very confusingly, because it's like it is the single most important thing for Republicans to do. But is he saying not voting is the most important thing, or like, yeah, the way it's written, maybe he's saying if we don't solve it.
It's just poorly
coming
written.
Right after the Republicans will not be voting. It is the single most like, oh God, I think they lost some of their editors, or who knows, maybe it's just him getting on. I don't know how he releases these statements anymore because he's banned from everywhere, but you can just picture him like hunching over, being like, nailed it. And it's totally, it's
sitting like a king on his squatty potty throne and giving us these nuggets. I wish I'd gone a different direction of political wisdom. But anyway, so yes, and you can always tell when he wrote the statement or not. Sometimes it'll have like complex multi-syllable words, and I'm like, you didn't write that. You got some college Republican intern. But anyway, this he definitely wrote. Now, there's 2 angles of this that I want to talk about. So one is if this will happen. I don't know that it's been conclusively proven. Like, I don't know how you would that his statements hurt turnout in Georgia, but the Democrats did win 2 Senate seats, and that's not typically a thing that happens in Georgia. So it is, I think, reasonable to assume that these close elections might have been thrown by not just him, but people like Lynn Wood and others going and saying, these elections are just stolen. You can't trust any of the machines. Why waste your time? Now, in this case, it's not an election that's 2 weeks away. He's talking about something in 22 and in 24. He might never say anything like this again, but do you think there's a possibility that he and others are training Republicans to not trust the system and kind of become apathetic about actually being an active part of it?
This is so muddy to me. I mean, I'm also just looking at the quote about having to, saying that like voting isn't enough. Now you have to protect your vote. It's so interesting to me because that is in a way something that we say on the left all the time is like, not you have to protect your vote, but it's like, we've learned voting isn't enough. You have to vote. And then typically on our side, it's like, and canvass and donate and phone bank and all that good stuff. But I'm just so stricken by this, this repeating of this language that I've heard and said so often, like voting isn't enough. But of course, in this case, I don't know what else to say. I don't know how you can continue to provide facts and evidence, and even people on the right and Republican leaders and even Republicans who have lost their elections or re-elections are saying like, this isn't a problem. I just don't know what to do. I mean, and like Steve Scalise was on Fox News the other day, refusing to concede that Biden fair and square won the election. And again, it's like these people, they're not just nobodies. Like he might very well be someday the House Majority Leader. And this is one of the cases that comes up so often with Trump and elections, that I don't know what this will take as a country to recover from the damage that this rhetoric has been doing to our election systems. I really just don't know.
Yeah, they've turned in a very anti-democratic direction. Every election is fake and has been stolen. They were saying that about Gretchen Whitmer. They had to rally against her, and they were like, "No, she stole it in 2018." What are you talking about? But yeah, and look, it's not that this is totally new. Like you fall in a lot of elections. There's always some percentage of the losing side that says it was stolen, regardless of the evidence or whatever. But I don't think I've ever seen it just be expected that every politician on that side is also going to say that it was stolen. And so I share your concern. Can you move away from that? Will 2028 be like just totally like, we give it our best shot, but we lost. I guess we'll see him in 4 years. I don't know. And people who study democracy and who especially study the fall of democracy, they say that it is this official unwillingness to comply with the results of elections that is most dangerous. It's not that people are mad, it's that their representatives, their leaders are going along with it, because democracy is an unlikely thing. People being willing to let other people control what they do, knowing they're gonna do things they don't like, only works if you believe, well, I can get them next time. You know what? I lost this time, but I'll run again in 2024. They're convincing their fans next time is irrelevant. There ain't gonna be a next time. It's gonna be stolen just as bad as this time. So what's the alternative? If it's not a ballot, what is it? What do you take up? And we should also recognize, by the way, that while I'm being a little bit jokey about him telling them not to vote, there's a reason that he's doing that. And it isn't fundamentally about the base. Well, it is, but it's not just getting them not to vote. It's getting them to put pressure on Republican politicians to do X. And X can be suppressing the vote, auditing the ballots, doing all of the nonsense they're doing. Take control of the Secretary of State's office, take control of county elections boards. He wants them to be invested and involved in this process, because this isn't about stopping a steal, it's setting up a steal. And he's got a couple of years to do it, and he's gonna. Anyway, final thoughts on this?
No, absolutely. Yeah, you said it perfectly. He's setting the stage for the Republicans to steal the next elections, and like it's something we unfortunately just need to keep talking about. And it's depressing and demoralizing that like something like this can be debated, but we have to keep talking about it. We have to keep just pushing the truth. It's so simple and difficult, but the consequences of this whole thing are just really getting into place.
Agreed. Well, unfortunately, that is gonna have to be the end of our first hour, but don't go anywhere. Assuming you're on YouTube or on Twitch, we will have more for you, and it gets even crazier with Rudy Giuliani and Nazis in the streets and all that. If you're on our linear platforms, thank you for watching though. We're gonna take a short break and we'll be back after this. Welcome back, everyone. It's me and Caroline. Caroline, thank you once again for joining us. It's been great to have you here.
Yeah, this is so fun. You've got a great community here.
We do. Great community, great team, great co-hosts. It's great. The news is
great.
Absolute garbage, but everything outside of that is great. I think that if we could just take everything we have and just make it about TV and movies or whatever, like I think that would be great. Someday we're gonna make that turn. Have you seen Squid Game yet?
I have not. I'm a little, I know it's gonna be so depressing in the best way. So I'm kind of like, you gotta be in the right headspace for that. But I'm thrilled that it's getting as much attention and positive press as it has.
Yeah. Well, there's some other shows you might want to look into later on today. Obviously, you got the main show. It's gonna be very exciting. You got Ann Kasparian, you got Cenk Uygur. Also on Thursdays, Reactions with Ravana, little thing you can watch. A lot of thematic overlap with Squid Game. I've always said that actually. That's available at 1 p.m. Pacific time, 4 p.m. Eastern time at twitch.tv/TYT. No word yet on which children's games Ravana will be competing in, but we'll find out later on today. And that said, I'm gonna read some of your comments. Eric the Red in the members comment says Godzilla of truth, so he rampages over it, destroys it, whether he means to or not, or he fights large truths? I don't know. These are all good questions though. Todd G says, Todd G has been a tier 2 member for 10 months, which I think is how long we've had membership actually. So thank you, Todd G. Gets access to our weekly top 10 lists at tier 2. Says Caroline is definitely one of my favorite guest hosts.
Thank you so much. I forgot your username, but thank you.
Todd G. Ray Pierce has been a tier 1 member for 6 months. Thank you for that. Let's see. Ray Allen says, hi, John and Caroline. The Dragon Squad would like to know if Caroline has any pets.
I do. I have a little 9-month-old dog named Peggy, who is, I had to barricade her in the other room because she's very,
do that.
Next time she refuses to, if she needs so much attention, she would be just front and center the whole time, which, for the first time with us, I thought might be a little much. But
I guess. And they also want to know if you've chosen a dragon name. I don't remember if that came up when you were on Francesca. I don't know if you even know what that is. I apologize.
It didn't. I had a lovely subscriber. I forget how, I think maybe Twitter DM or Instagram DM welcomed me to the Dragon Squad. I think she said her name was Dragon Mother or something, but it was very nice.
Mother, yes.
I did not know what they were referring to, but it was a very nice message. And yeah, I guess I don't know what the dragon. I was hoping like being on more, I might just like organically figure it out.
Sure.
That hasn't happened.
That's generally
yet,
how it goes.
I'm down to keep trying to solve the mystery.
Okay, well, we'll talk more about it. Blue Tech the Belgian Dragon gifted 3 tier 1 subs over on Twitch. Thank you very much for that. Sethian Rosen subscribed for the 17th month. Thank you. Little fact for you, Sethian Rosen. I have never once seen your name and not read Seth Rogen. Every single time for a year plus now, actually. So that's fun. Anyway, Shadow Wolf gifted 10 tier 1 subs. Thank you for that. Deteen subscribed for the first time with Prime. Very nice of you, thank you. Angry Little Nobody says, Angry Little Dragon checking in. Sinema doesn't care about continuing as a politician clearly. She can lose this position and go be a lobbyist. It's about the money, Dragon Dad, no approval necessary. That is true. But to get the job as a lobbyist, you do have to have working relationships with currently elected politicians, which my strategy has always been replace every person who's even like minimally kind to her in elected office so that she won't know anyone, so that she won't be able to get a job as a lobbyist. Let's work on that. Anyway, with that, Caroline, you ready for some more news?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Okay, well you say that, but this video is pretty crazy. So here's Lindsey Graham.
40,000 Brazilians come through the Yuma sector alone, headed for Connecticut, wearing designer clothes and Gucci bags. This is not economic migration anymore. People see an open America. They've taken advantage of us, and it won't be long before a terrorist gets in this crowd.
Okay, so we're going to dig into what you just saw a sitting United States senator say, but I do have a bit of a spoiler alert for you. I don't like spoiling things, but I at least am not going to be able to explain almost any of that because it's nonsense, Caroline. 40,000 Brazilians headed through the Yuma sector with Gucci bags for Connecticut. Now, I'm not an expert on many things, but I did live for the first decades of my life in Connecticut. I don't remember anything about Connecticut that seems like it particularly brilliant. I don't know.
Lucky
what
for
do you think is going on?
I am from Connecticut.
You're from Connecticut too?
From Connecticut, yeah.
Do I want to ask where in Connecticut?
Probably not, honestly. A little, horrible corner called Fairfield County, but
Wait, hold up. I'm from Fairfield County as well.
Oh God, yeah, just a nice little city on the New York border called Greenwich.
Okay. I spent some time in Greenwich. I'm from Bridgeport initially, but same county.
Same county, much, probably a much better place to grow up. I definitely, Connecticut is a really fascinating state just in terms of, I think it has the biggest wealth disparity in the country, and Fairfield County specifically is, an amazing case study of how that plays out on the national scale in differences in wealth and things like that. That's a much bigger conversation, and that I would be very happy to have at any time. But going back to Lindsey Graham, people that fit right in to Connecticut, and we welcome them. And I say, bring your designer clothes, bring your Gucci bags, you'll be right at home. But yeah, no, I mean, just in general, this is what they're doing is sowing this discord of claiming that basically all immigrants' claims to asylum are false and not grounded in anything. So they just these Republican leaders are just saying anything that further proves that that belief that they have, which is obviously not true. Just asylum laws in general are so politicized now, and that's what he's doing. But yeah, as someone from Connecticut, and I do love Connecticut. I wish I was there this time of year. We welcome you. We welcome your designer handbags.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It does. I get what you're totally right. That's what he's doing. But they also try to make the case that every immigrant coming over is gonna be a massive drain on American government. I don't know, these people seem rich. What's your problem with them? If he actually thought they were rich, he wouldn't be demonizing them on Fox, he'd be asking them for donations. So that's how you know he's lying there. But you're totally right. That said, growing up in Bridgeport, I actually lived on the dividing line between two communities, the Italian community and the Brazilian community. Whenever they would play each other in soccer, the flags would come out on both sides. So there is a Brazilian community. That said, I don't think he knows about that. I don't think he knows at all what he's talking about. So let's see. We had an analysis of what he appears to be talking about. The Washington Post looked into some of it. So there were these photos of some migrants, including Brazilian migrants. None of the luggage in the photos appeared to be Gucci. The most obvious clothing was a pair of fairly clean Puma tennis shoes without shoelaces. Let's see. It's unclear, Insider says, where Graham got a number of 40,000 from, or where he got the indication that these migrants were on their way to Connecticut, but there are some Brazilians. So he made the claim that 40,000 Brazilians are coming in with Gucci bags to Connecticut. The 40,000 part isn't true, the Connecticut part isn't true, the Gucci isn't true. The final point is a little bit less compelling. There are Brazilians. But I guess that's why he went with his gussied up version for Fox News. It makes for better xenophobia.
Yeah, why did he choose Connecticut? Why?
I don't know.
Why do you choose Connecticut? If any, I think for the most part, Connecticut has done a fairly good job of accepting refugees. I know there's quite a few Syrian refugees in Connecticut. It's a blue state.
Yeah.
What?
I don't know.
I don't know. What? Connecticut is so rarely in the news, and you hate to see it. You hate to see its one yearly like on Fox News for something like this. It doesn't deserve that.
It doesn't. Nobody even knows that it's there. Bridgeport was once mentioned on Family Guy, and people in Bridgeport talked about it for literally years. I'm still talking about it. That's how rarely we're talking about it in the news. Anyway, okay, we got some other crazy news to talk about. We'll check in with Lindsey Graham, see how he's doing later on in the week. But let's jump into this. There's a single school district in Florida, you'll be surprised to find out, that has already lost 17 employees from COVID-19. Now, as a percentage of the total population working in schools, it's not massive, but that is a big hit for one county to have, and totally needless, and not very shocking considering how Florida and their government have dealt with COVID so far. So this is not like going back to the very beginning. We're talking about employees that have returned to their jobs on August 10th, just a couple of months ago, basically. Let's see, the district doesn't know how they got COVID. It's Florida, you know. Let's see, the Polk County Public School District says the pandemic continues to severely impact our community, and many public servants, including educators, healthcare staff, rescue workers, and law enforcement officers, are experiencing tragic losses. Every death is a devastating blow to our community and reinforces the need for all people to continue taking precautions to reduce the spread of illness, which is true. And I don't know who wrote that message. Maybe the person that wrote that message wishes that they were still doing virtual learning, wishes they had mask mandates and that people took it more seriously and they didn't demonize vaccines. I have no idea. And I have no idea if that would have saved any or all of those who died, but it certainly wouldn't have hurt. And those 17 in one district, that's particularly egregious, but so many people in education have died, Caroline, from COVID. And to have like all of the national conversation about schools and COVID is crazy parents going to school board meetings, demonizing masks, politicians, including DeSantis, financially penalizing districts that try to protect their employees. It's disgusting.
Yeah, this was a real. I took this story, as I'm sure many people will, incredibly hard, just because I think there's a big narrative in the news that Florida is this state that just can't get its act together and is sort of this battleground for a lot of these different cultural issues. And it's easy to get just stuck in the numbers of their COVID cases, but seeing this specific story was so heartbreaking, just because you're actually I feel like earlier in the pandemic there was a lot of stories like personalizing the stories of people who had COVID, but that's kind of waned a bit. So this is just like a really heartbreaking but really excellent reminder of how a disease has just been weaponized politically and how sad it is. And I think there was an example, the cognitive dissonance that I find really, really sad is, I think there was an article, I think it was the Daily Beast, that talked about a school board member or a mother who wanted her child to wear a mask and was reported to Child Protective Services.
Oh my God.
And the family, they had to be investigated, and the little girl had to undergo an investigation by CPS. And it also reminds me in Beverly Hills, this is happening so many places. In Beverly Hills, there have been really big protests with anti-maskers, anti-vaxxers, literally going up to children walking to school with their parents and yelling at their parents, saying that their parents are abusing them, their parents are taking away their liberties. And in a moment of huge irony, I saw this one woman just be like, "You're traumatizing your children," and it's like, you're traumatizing a child. You're screaming at a child going to school. So luckily in Beverly Hills, they passed an emergency ordinance, which is very unfortunate, but bans protests within 300 feet of a school entrance, which you don't want to see that ever have to happen.
Sure.
But it's so sad what has happened and the lengths to which these individuals who can't stand masks or vaccines, and having been emboldened by people like DeSantis, it's really a stain on this country, and it's heartbreaking. That's really all I can say. It's very sad.
It is, and it would have been, and we've said some version of this, I think 792 times in the past year and a half. It would have been devastating and tragic and horrific if we had done everything we could as a society to stop stuff and people had still died, which they would have. It would have been far less, but it would have happened and it would have been tragic. There are so many needless added layers of horror that we are opting into this. Some percentage of us are there are people advocating for COVID in Florida harder than most people will ever advocate for anything politically in their life. And that's what's going on. We're gonna have a great example actually of that on the show tomorrow. We'll be talking about. But yeah, there's a school board member, Lynn Wilson, who says it's a terrible tragedy. It really is. Our hands are tied. The reality is you can't enforce a mask policy. I know a lot of folks wanted a mask policy. I think the real key was allowing a virtual option, and we couldn't do that either. So imagine being one of these people that, was on a board, cares about education. You just watch people dying. Like all around you want to save them, but you can't save them. You're literally not allowed to save them. And that's why, if we can jump ahead a bit, there's this article right now. We feel your grief, remembering the 1,000 plus educators who've died of COVID-19. That was as of September 3rd. Of course, a lot of wave came after that. Another article going around, oh, by the way, one Twitter account, Lost to COVID, keeps a daily record of school personnel that have died from COVID. They say it's over 1,600. There's an article on WSBTV.com of profiling 50 Georgia teachers and staff lost to COVID-19 since the start of the school year. And we didn't have to do this. We didn't have to. And all those people who were saying, how dare you make the kids stay home? How dare you do the mask? You want funding for COVID resiliency? Who cares? Will never have to answer for any of this. They will never have to look at the list of 50 names of Georgia teachers that needlessly died. And you want to talk about trauma for kids? I'm trying to remember in grade school and high school, a teacher or staff member dying. And I can't remember a single one. Imagine you lose your 6th grade teacher to COVID. That's trauma. That's trauma. COVID pneumonia for kids, that's trauma. Kids are being hospitalized, they're dying. Talking about trauma from a mask. What a stupid country we live in.
Oh my God.
Anyway.
Agreed.
Let's talk about one more thing. I'm getting a little bit mad. And I don't think this one's gonna really lighten it up, but we're gonna see what happens. I know this is something you've been thinking about a lot recently. Katie Couric has revealed that in her new book, she revealed in her new book that previously she omitted portions of a quote from an interview that she did with former Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And she did it specifically to protect the justice from public reaction to what she was saying. So the book is called Going There. And she reportedly writes she was conflicted after Ruth Bader Ginsburg back in 2016 had criticized Colin Kaepernick and other athletes who protested racial injustice this year. Couric wrote that she was a big RBG fan. Okay, so in the version of the interview that was published and people saw back in 2016, Ginsburg referred to the protests during anthems before football games as dumb and disrespectful. So let's be very clear, the stuff that was released was really bad to begin with. And at the time, actually, days after it, she walked back her comments, saying in a statement that she had been, quote, barely aware of the protests or their, quote, purpose, and that her comments were inappropriately dismissive and harsh, and she should have declined to respond. That's good advice. She should have declined to respond. Better advice would be if you are going to be one of the 9 justices of the Supreme Court and the biggest social justice and racial justice protests of our lifetime are going on, you should not be just dimly aware that they're happening or what their purpose is. You should know about that. But anyway, in the book, Couric wrote that Ginsburg also said the protests showed, quote, contempt for a government that has made it possible for their parents and grandparents to live a decent life. Jesus. Couric, wow. Couric quoted Ginsburg as saying, which they probably could not have lived in the places they came from. As they became older, they realized that this was youthful folly, and that's why education is important. Couric writes that the justice was elderly and probably didn't fully understand the question, which is arguably a good reason to retire from the Supreme Court. If you literally can't understand what you're saying or what you're talking about, should you still be deciding these things? but don't worry, we got a redo with Amy Coney Barrett, and I'm sure she'll get it better on questions of race. Anyway, Caroline, you've been talking about this story recently. What do you think?
So there's two things going on here. The first is the substance of what Ruth Bader Ginsburg said, which of course is just, it's really horrible. I mean, to say that where your family came from, these are Black Americans. So their ancestors didn't exactly like leave willingly from where they came from. So that, I mean, that's one thing. And I
totally.
I'm grateful that this story is coming out now, because this is a really important reminder that we cannot idolize, like, the right wingers with that flag from the Capitol or whatever, like, we can't idolize human beings as perfect. They're human beings. Ruth Bader, this is, Ginsburg had, none of this is to say that what she did as a justice was, wrong or bad or whatever. She did incredible, amazing things. But it is insulting to claim that someone is perfect like this. And so it just limits, and this is like, a left liberal issue that we need to talk about, is shutting things down like this, what Couric did, shuts down really important conversations that need to be had. I was grateful that in the past year or so, some of Ginsburg's rulings that were also similarly not great came out, including she had some really negative environmental rulings and towards indigenous tribes, most recently one in 2020 where she voted to extend, I think, the Appalachian pipeline, go forward with that, which was disruptive to many indigenous communities. The problem here is Katie Couric. The problem is that you are a journalist and you can't just take something out because you like this person's politics. That's the real problem. RBG was allowed to have differing opinions. But the problem is with Katie Couric. She shouldn't have done this. That's not journalism. And how can we then criticize people like Tucker Carlson who do the same thing if we're doing it on our side as well?
Yeah, I'm gonna find a way, but I can only speak for myself. Yeah, no, you're totally right.
As long as you're open
don't
about
idolize people. If I interview AOC again and we have a great conversation, but at some point she turns to me and says half of all Italians are werewolves, I'm reporting on it. Like, I don't care that I like her. Like, I have to let you know about the werewolf thing, and I will be investigating, me and Ken Klippenstein. But anyway, you're totally right. Nobody's perfect. She's done great things, and she should be criticized for the things that she did that weren't so great. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have. Caroline, it's been great to have you on. I look forward to talking with you on the Damage Report again. Before we close, though, let everyone know where they can watch more of your work.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am on Rebel HQ. You can find me in among a ton of other great, or not a ton, a couple other great contributors there, and you can follow. I don't want to be like, they're just hiring anyone these days.
It's 50.
There's 15. Okay, I had, but everyone's really great. Rebel HQ on YouTube and Facebook. And you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, wherever, Caro Johnson 917. Talking a lot about LA politics, national politics, all that good stuff.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. Have a good one.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Before I close out, Stephen Turner just sent in a very generous super chat. I can't close the show without reading this, but he said, I had a conversation with a patient recently that was in response to the big why around COVID. In short, it's impossible to mitigate a global pandemic while at the same time attempting to deal with a worldwide epidemic of narcissism. Tragic, but true. Yeah, and we've seen that in a lot of cases over the last year and a half. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Now is the time on Thursdays when you go to our community tab on YouTube and you vote in the Garbage People of the Week poll. Brett and I will be throwing out some true political garbage tomorrow, so go do that. I got an awesome interview coming up that'll be posted soon, but until next time, stay safe out there, stay sane out there, and I'll see you soon.